So, guys, day 10 of Cowboys training camp is officially wrapped up, and probably this was the best performance from the defense till now. Christian Parker's system is starting to show what it can become, and the biggest thing is, this wasn't just one player having a good day. We saw multiple guys making plays in different areas, and when that keeps happening, you know there's an actual system behind it. The players are starting to understand what Parker wants from them, and day 10 may have given us our clearest look yet at what this defense can become. So let me break down what happened, who stepped up, and why this could be a big sign for the Cowboys defense going forward. What's up, Cowboys Nation? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, before we get into all the defensive stuff, let's talk about the offense first, because there was some really good news on that side of the ball too. Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb hooked up early, and honestly, at this point, that's just what we expect from those two. When you've got a quarterback and a receiver who have been together this long, some of these completions almost look routine, even when they're not. But the guy I really want to talk about is Guyton. He's been battling for that left tackle job all camp, and honestly, some of the criticism on him last year was fair. He had his struggles. But today he showed up in a big way against Donovan Ezeiruaku. Good kick out of his stance, drove off that foot, squared up his angle because Ezeiruaku was lined up wide, and then his hands got engaged first. He sank his hips, anchored in, and honestly just washed him out of the rep. That's the kind of pad level and hip sync you want to see from your left tackle, and it's a real step up from where he was a year ago. If he keeps stacking reps like that, this whole conversation about him losing the job might quiet down pretty fast. Then we got to see Jashaun Corbin on a little screen action, and I gotta say, this guy has burst. Once he caught the ball, you saw him reading his blocks, getting skinny behind the offensive lineman in front of him, and running through contact instead of going down on first touch. He's got that extra gear once he gets into open space. He's a Florida State guy, played a little bit for the New York Giants, and honestly, with the way the running back room is set up right now, I think he's going to push hard for a role in that backfield. He's not walking into a starting job or anything, but as a depth piece and a special teams guy, keep an eye on him, because reps like that don't go unnoticed by the coaching staff. Jaden Blue also had a nice run through the A-gap, and a lot of that credit goes to Cooper Beebe, who was quietly having a really good camp up front and honestly doesn't get talked about enough. He helped seal things off against Quinnen Williams, worked up to the second level, and created a clean lane for Blue to hit. Blue ran through it hard before getting met by Maurice Lufau in the hole, and even in that contact, you could see he's got some wiggle to make defenders miss. And on that same drive, Dak Prescott got flushed a little bit by pressure, but still found George Pickens against Kalen Carson for a touchdown. Good pressure on one side, good throw and catch on the other. That's just football, and it's honestly a good sign for both units when a rep plays out like that. Okay, so now let's get into the real story of the day, which is this defense, and I mean that. Because it wasn't just one guy flashing and everybody else disappearing. It was play after play, different guys, different spots on the field, all showing signs of this Christian Parker system starting to click. And honestly, that's the thing I've been waiting to see since he got hired. It's easy for one talented guy to have a good day at camp. It's a whole different thing when the front, the linebackers, and the back end are all making plays on the same day. That usually means guys are starting to trust the scheme instead of just trying to make a play on their own. Okay, let's start up front with Rashan Gary, because this guy is a problem. He came off the edge, got into Tyler Smith, who was not a small guy by any means, and honestly just tossed him aside to get to Jaden Blue in the backfield. Watching it back at full speed, you can see the calves and the shoulders working together. That's just built different type of strength. If that's a real game, Blue is getting put on the ground, no question about it. That's power football right there, and you could tell Gary is starting to feel himself a little bit out there, and honestly, I don't blame him. When you're playing like that, you should feel yourself. He's already shown he can win with speed off the edge, but reps like this show he can win with pure strength too, and that's a scary combination for opposing tackles. Right next to him, Sam Williams is having himself a camp too. He went up against Guyton in a big one-on-one rep, and you could just see the pop he plays with when his hands land. He plays big and violent, kind of similar to Gary in that sense, always pushing forward instead of getting stood up. And with Parker likely using him at outside linebacker in this new scheme instead of just a straight edge role, I think that versatility is going to help him carve out a real role for himself this season. because it gives the coaching staff more ways to move him around and create mismatches. And now let's talk about Donovan Ezeiruaku, because even though Guyton won that rep I mentioned earlier, Ezeiruaku was still around the football constantly for most of the practice. He's got that motor that just does not stop, and even on plays where he doesn't win clean, he's still affecting things and forcing quick decisions from the offense. That's the kind of disruption Parker wants from his front, guys who make things uncomfortable even when they're not getting home for the sack. And when you've got a young guy like that showing that kind of relentless effort this early, it usually means the production is going to follow once the pads come off and the games actually start counting. And then you have Malachi Lawrence. A lot of you have been asking about him, wondering if he's more of a preseason flash guy or an actual difference maker. On this one rep, he showed off the toolbox. Good pressure off the line, hand timing was precise, and then he bent underneath the pads and ran the hoop to get home. Yeah, he's still got some things to clean up, like that little false step he takes sometimes coming off the ball, but the coaching staff is already working with him on it. I'm not saying he's the next Micah Parsons, but I like what I'm seeing from him early. Now here's a play that actually tells a bigger story about this defense. There was an interception thrown by Dak Prescott, and if you just watched it at full speed, you'd think he made a bad read or a bad throw, especially if you're already looking for a reason to be hard on him. But when you break it down frame by frame, LT Overton got a hand up right at the line and tipped the ball, which made it wobble off course, and that tip pass fell right into the hands of Locke for the pick. So that interception wasn't really on Dak at all. That was Overton doing his job up front, and Locke being disciplined enough to stay in his zone and be in the right spot to finish the play. That's exactly the kind of team defense Parker has been preaching since he got here. Guys covering for each other, trusting their eyes, and being ready when the ball comes their way instead of freelancing. And speaking of guys being ready, let's talk about Caleb Downs, because I know some of you had questions about whether a rookie safety like him can actually hold up against the run this early. On this play, he read the single back look, peeked his eyes to confirm where the ball was going, came downhill fast, slipped the block attempt from Cooper Beebe, and helped finish the tackle alongside D. Winters. That's not a coverage safety just hanging back and playing it safe. That's a guy playing physical and getting involved in the run fit like a linebacker would. And when you look at his college tackle numbers, this honestly shouldn't surprise anybody who watched him closely. He's shown he can do this at a high level before, and now he's just doing it here, at this level against faster and stronger competition. And that's exactly why today matters so much. It's not about one perfect practice. It's about seeing the pieces start to work together. You had Rashan Gary and Sam Williams winning up front. You had Donovan Ezeiruaku staying disruptive even without a clean win. You had Malachi Lawrence flashing that toolbox everybody's been talking about. You had LT Overton and Locke connecting on a takeaway. And you had Caleb Downs showing he can hit just as hard as he can cover. That's not one guy carrying the whole unit. That's multiple guys in multiple spots doing their job at the same time. And when that starts happening on a consistent basis, that tells you the scheme is starting to sink in. Look, this team was near the bottom of the league defensively last season, so there's a long way to go before anybody starts calling this a complete turnaround. That's just being honest with you. I'm not going to pretend one good practice erases a whole season of problems. But Christian Parker is only 34 years old, and he came from a staff over in Philly that helped build one of the best secondaries in football, guys who ended up earning All-Pro honors under his coaching. He knows what he's doing, and you can already see his fingerprints on how these guys are flying around and covering for each other out there. It's still early, but the foundation looks like it's being built the right way.